Hello. So welcome to DevKami number 72. So I'm Suming and we
And
have
I am Tristan.
I have our guest here, Lisa. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. So where's Chilean will make us? Work thing and all that. So unfortunately uh, because of schedule and stuff, he won't be here today.
Oh, thank you.
So by the time most of you will see this, it would be you will notice that it won't be a live show like we do always. So if you have any comment, leave it in the comment. So we do this one day before on Wednesday, so you should be able to see it on Thursday. I hope, unless YouTube mess up. So that being said, let's start with event. So what we have on our events?
At devkami.com/meetups. Let me go there
Yeah,
too.
yes. So on
It's
Saturday,
interesting. It's
go
interesting
on.
that events are still happening, even though there's the coronavirus thing happening.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, we had the Ministry of Testing meetup
Mhm,
at AWS.
mhm. So how was it?
So it's surprisingly a lot of people attended. It's about 30, I think 30, 40 people. Um, and we were joking amongst ourselves, like Faz was there and then Amir was there. We're joking like these QA people were like hiding and then just waiting for the opportune moment to go and yes, I'm with my tribe, and everyone here is a QA tester. No devs. Well, there's like two devs in the in the room, but like okay, yes, and then they can talk about the QA. So I recorded the whole thing. Hopefully I can get the thing uploaded to YouTube because my phone recorded it into three parts. So I'm stitching them together and then I'll get them out to the engineers of my channel.
Cool.
It was a
So
good meetup.
awesome. Then on Pi Day, March 14, we have Google Cloud and Firebase Study Jam. This is happening on ADEX at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you're interested in cloud and Firebase thingy, join them. Then I think that's
Are
about
they
it because I believe, yes.
yeah, are were they continuing with this? I remember they mentioned something about canceling it or doing it
Oh,
only
that they're
online.
canceling. Oh yeah, it might
Um
be that's the case. I
we
don't
might
find the
have, yeah,
information.
so if anyone is going there on the 14th, like which is I think Sunday, right?
Yeah,
Saturday.
it's a Saturday.
Um
It's a Saturday.
yeah, you might want to confirm before going there
Yeah.
whether it's going to be online only or whether it's canceled.
Mhm.
Mm.
Then
I was going to host the DevOps meetup this month, and I feel really bad about having to cancel it because our
Oh, are
health
you
safety
canceling?
environment, yeah, we did have to because our health safety and environment department just issued a company-wide notice to avoid
uh-huh.
all these big meetups, and we even postponed. Actually, we didn't postpone. We even converted our president town hall, which is usually live in the
Mhm.
KLCC plenary, to be a live streaming event.
Mm.
So just to
Ah,
avoid the gatherings.
okay.
I think
So
that's one
what?
of the biggest at like looking at it positively, like the silver lining is that organizations are now forced to learn how to do these live stream of like online meetings, right?
Yeah.
Like ushering in the remote work culture, work from
Mm,
home or like work remotely out of office.
mm.
Uh, Swimming, do you know if KLJS is actually happening?
I did not hear anything that planned
Mm.
to happen, but I look at their group and all that. There is no information about any
Yeah.
event. Very likely
Mm-hmm.
they may cancel. You should check out their community. So that's
Mm-hmm.
it. I think that's about the event that we have throughout the week.
Yeah.
So stay safe, watch your hand. Do not touch my face like me all the time. Do not put your hand in your mouth,
Don't let other
etc.,
people touch
etc.,
your
etc.
keyboard and your mouse.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I work in a social area, so it's too late for me. But you guys, brace yourself, save yourself. Okay, that being said, let's start our bus corner. So, what's interesting happening for the past week? And here's a few of my favorite one. Chrome 81 is out.
Mm,
They're going to release soon. They're going to release in the beta channel. So a few interesting thing from it. You get near field communication, NFC. You have augmented reality.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Wait, do
interesting
you
from
know if NFC is a proper like IEEE thing, like sorry, W3C API,
I
like
do
Web
not
Bluetooth, for
know.
example?
I
Mm,
do not know. To be honest, I do not know actually.
mm.
According
Because
to yes,
yeah, because
oh
Chrome is dangerously getting close to how Microsoft Explorer was in the 90s. You know, like all
yes,
of
they
these
are.
new things. And then suddenly everything just depends on Microsoft Explorer. And
Yes,
it was a monopoly of a browser. And this feels very much like it.
but on the other hand, I'm proud to do the whole DevKami on Firefox. Yay!
Oh, it's working on Firefox.
Yes,
I am
believe it or
also
not.
apparently I'm also working on having this on Firefox. I didn't notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then so another one is same-set cookie handling for .NET framework. If you use Azure app, and finally the last
Mm-hmm.
interesting one for me is Oracle is okay. So Oracle is having a court case versus Google about API copyright.
Yeah, this is
And
like what, 10, 15 years now?
no,
Like it's a
it's
long
at most 3-4 years.
what? So it's a
So it's
different thing then.
about yeah, it's a different thing. They did try for Java, but it's a different thing. This one is the
Ah, okay.
for Android to implement Java API.
Mm-hmm.
So this is interesting for me because it's about how we write program. So one of the recent thing is the in this legal case, Oracle is not suing. It's more like claiming that 83 computer scientists having conflict of interest because Google have been sponsoring the research.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very weird stuff.
And
But this
they're claiming that APIs should
are
be
copyrightable.
copyrightable.
Correct.
Yeah. And because Android was like Java in the end, although they did not use the Oracle Sun Java
Correct.
code, but
Yes.
they it is compatible with Java, even though they
Correct.
created their own code. They're saying, oh,
Correct.
because you used our API, like API shape,
Yeah.
then you're copyright infringing. You're infringing on our copyrights. So
Correct.
yeah, so apparently it's 13th of August 2010. Oracle sued Google for copyright and patent infringement in
Oh, it's almost 10
California.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the API
I
thing
was
is
following this case for a long time.
yeah.
So
So
Oracle purchased Sun in 2009
yeah.
and got all the patents in 2010, and then the
Yeah.
same year sued Google for Sun intellectual property. So it's
Yes.
almost as if they bought Sun so they can sue Google. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
almost as
It's
if.
complicated. That's where some of the ground road barely breaking to Lisa because we kind of promised that don't go into politics and all that. But I'm sorry,
No.
but this is this is my if somebody uh, decided that if
Oh
somebody
no.
decided that I can't write program in HTML anymore because of copyright reason, I'm out of job. So it's pretty big
Mm.
deal for me.
We
So
become managers. That's where we go.
yes.
Just
So
kidding.
anything interesting on your side?
No, that's the Oracle Google lawsuit has been interesting for the last 10 years. It's still interesting because it's been like decided and it's been remanded, it's been like
Uh,
overturned, and then now they're still suing. So it's like a huge story that's still
yeah,
happening.
yeah. So let's say I think we can start with our interview. So Lisa, let's introduce yourself.
Hmm. Oh, okay. So, well, I spent about 10 years in consulting. I was with Accenture, Petronas. I've been with Petronas for about 5 years now. Um, this is the first year that I'll be taking on a new role. Previously, for the last 5 years, I was in charge of almost like a one big delivery house where we created and we developed and we maintained applications for the Petronas group of companies. So it's a captive
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
And most of these applications were used by employees at Petronas facilities, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them very plant oriented, like health, safety, environment, security, process safety, data historians,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So now, because we did mostly a lot of custom development work, um, we also experimented a lot, of course, with how to make the engineering better because it got to a point where the team of 160 were managing more than 50 over products. So the fragmentation and the feature development, it wasn't sustainable. And after 5 years, there's a lot of deprecation. The applications get old, they start to become unreliable. So this year I'll be focusing a lot on DevOps engineering, cloud adoption, and really any kind of process improvement that um, makes our lives better in IT. So basically I spent a lot of my time creating problems in the last 5 years, and now I'm trying to do my best to correct it.
Okay.
From the
So
other side of the
from
fence.
yeah. So from what you're saying just now, you're actually coming from a developer from outside the organization to inside. What's the difference would be? So I'm supposed the dynamic between essential working as a service provider to Petronas to working within
Mm.
Petronas itself, the dynamic would be very different.
Mm. Well, there are quite a number of differences.
Yeah.
Um, Accenture actually is a very big company. They do a lot of different kinds
Yeah.
of work. And I
Yeah.
was in management consulting. So a lot of the work that I did in Accenture wasn't actually technical. It was a lot of
Yeah.
consulting work around building frameworks, management systems, processes, and business improvement for
Mm-hmm.
how entire divisions and sometimes businesses would actually operate or improve. Um, but a lot of management consulting work for Accenture was also done on the backs of large systems implementation
So
projects. So as a result, a large part of our work was IT based, and the management consulting came along with that because a lot of IT change comes along with process changes, change management, change in behavior, change in business
yeah.
strategy, things like that. So it I wouldn't say it was like a developer outside and then developer inside. It was, for me, it was a transition between non-technical, largely non-technical consulting work, and then over to leading an IT division. That was one change. The other change is that in a company that's a service provider, obviously uh, the client is king, right? And
Yeah.
also you're in an MNC, so
Mm-hmm.
you're driven by things like profit margins, chargeability, and also staying on trend, making sure that you're um, recommending things that are of industry best practices to your clients and creating value and so on. But in Petronas, it's also a lot more about stewardship, making sure that what we develop is sustainable for the company. Because in Accenture, a lot of times you just go in, you do a project, and then you're done. Then you leave, you leave, you leave. Okay,
Hmm.
and then but when you're in IT, when you build something, you're more or less stuck with the baby forever until someone decides to decommission it or buy something new. So
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest shift, also
Okay.
technically. Mm.
Right. So you're jumping from a more management role to a more technical management role. Uh, how is that different? I mean, as you a non-tech person, I've worked in corporate scene for a while, so I know some. Like, assume most of us do not know anything at all. So tell us the difference between the two type of management down there.
The
Uh,
difference between what? Sorry.
technical management you are now
Yeah.
versus
Mm.
So, for example, I've heard that from talking to other managers that Managing IT people is like herding cats. Like they just don't follow. They have their own mind. Like it's like trying to get a cat go to you and then like making them all go together. And then when it happens, like it's almost like, oh, it's amazing, it's a miracle. But that's just anecdotal for me. Well, how was
Mm,
it for you?
hmm. I'm not sure it had a lot to do with whether someone was technical or non-technical. Maybe it had more to do with the company culture, because between a consulting company and IT division of a big company like Petronas, I mean, obviously the type of people and the personalities are very different. I mean, you when you hire for consulting, you're hiring for people who can actually persuade, negotiate, who can handle very difficult stakeholders, who can articulate, and who generally have the confidence to really get into very difficult fighting conversations with clients, almost, because you really have to drive to deliver value sometimes, and the prices that
Mm-hmm.
we used to make our clients pay, you better be worth that. I think in IT, it's also service delivery, but rather than being a competitive market, you're a captive market. So you don't have to fight so much for the work that you get. You're not sales driven, you're not profit driven, you're more of reliability driven. So I think um, what I feel about a lot of my people is that they don't get enough opportunity, I think, to do public speaking, for example. Okay,
Yep.
not that many opportunities also to go to the board and present, oh, I want to pursue this new strategy and this is why. Okay, but in consulting, you are constantly being put into this kind of situation, so you have to own your skills. So I think it's not that IT folks are not articulate, or they cannot explain what they're trying to do, or they are very quiet, or they just want to, they prefer talking to their computers than people. I think it's just the lack of practice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, based on my
Oh,
experience, when I talk to my tech guys, they have a lot to say. Especially you
Mm-hmm.
get them one on one when they teach you things, they talk about their ideas.
And that's
okay.
actually a common complaint by my former boss that when he speaks to us like one by one, we have a lot of things to say, but during company meetings, all the IT people like shut up and did not say anything. It's like it's obviously ridiculous. All of these people are talking about why don't you use your logic and just tell them they're wrong. But, yeah, okay, I mean, that's
Okay.
like a common complaint.
Uh, One thing from my traditional, from my former jobs, I used to work in a bank and all that. Often in a traditional organization, IT is a cost center, meaning IT are supposed to
Cost.
serve. IT is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to serve the business in general. As a result,
Mm,
uh, IT had been secondary for a long while, which is part of the reason why people still use COBOL, because those modernization is not a priority until you really need it.
mm,
Uh, which also reason the bank take a while to have mobile app, but that's another story. But what do you think about that? Because
mm,
it occurs to me that Petronas is actually a traditional organization where the primary business is not IT, but IT to support
mm,
the business in general. As a result
mm.
of that, I'm going to add one more thing. As a result, uh, IT don't have a lot of say. IT just do and do. You know what I mean? What do you think about that part?
Mm. Yeah, that's actually really true traditionally. I
Yeah.
think that IT is finally getting to have a seat at the table. I mean, when you look at the
Mm-hmm.
way the industry is shifting, and if you look at a lot of studies, manufacturing or asset-heavy industries or energy companies like ours are always the latest adopters, compared to like banks and technology
Yeah.
firms. So what we're finally catching up, and a lot of investments are being made in IT to enable the business. And our president, he started saying, 2 years ago or more, that one of the things that keeps him awake at night is that um, other oil and gas companies are going to develop technology based competitive advantages, and that would just leave us in the dust. So I think that's why you see a lot of things happening in Petronas. There's a huge focus on digital. Um, Instead of having a CIO, we have Chief Digital Information Officer, and um, we have a lot of projects and programs focused on advanced analytics, predictive analytics. So things like transport safety, predicting when the heat exchangers are going to fail. So a lot of what we do in technology does bring advantage to the bottom line for manufacturing facilities. Okay, so engineering in the plant and engineering in software, I think, is converging. So that's why we also talk about IT OT convergence, right? So it becomes such a popular bandwagon that everybody wants to jump on board. Last year we had 700 over projects that we needed to deliver to the business because everybody wanted an app here, wanted an app there, wanted an app here. So we are actually suffering a little bit of, like, too many people drinking the Kool-Aid actually. So now we're actually looking at a lot of application consolidation, a lot of centralized business planning, so that we don't get into a situation where we have now, like, we have 6 different room booking systems. I don't know why Petronas business has 6, but we do. So some of this is unnecessary. So I think it's not so much a question now about when oil and gas is going to invest. It is that we have a lot of investments to make. Where do we focus it? Because everybody wants to do everything at the same time, and everybody is so excited about it.
So
So
part
what
of
do you
it,
think of sorry, what do you think of software assets being compared with like the hardware assets? Like for example, you have an oil rig, which like is built over like a millions of dollars, but will be there for 25 years. I don't know about oil rigs, but
Mm,
maybe it lasts for 25 years. But is that the same when you
40.
manage a project,
Mm,
software project? 40, wow, that's so it lasts for a long time. And I guess banks are the same. Like if you have like a mainframe, it's going to last for a long time. And it's probably why they still stick with COBOL is because it works and they depreciate it over that long periods of time. Is that the same
mm,
perspective, or is it changing that it's going to change all the time? It's very malleable, or are we making software assets that will stand the test of time and it's going to be there for like the next 40 years?
mm. Actually, I when I talk about software engineering and DevOps with my users who are mostly engineers. These are the people at the front line who are actually making money for the business. So when I talk about software engineering, because people often cannot understand. They cannot understand why my application was working 2 years ago, but today it doesn't, or I have to do more investment in it just to keep it the same. So I use the analogy of plants a lot with them. Because the way they organize their people and the way that they manage and maintain their plants actually very similar to software. They have a maintenance department, they have an operations department. We also have ops department, and their ops is our dev. Okay, so I tell them that you have corrosion specialists that follow corrosion around the plant, and you have to do painting, and when you're done with the painting you have to start all over again from the other side of the plant. It's the same with us. We also have to do maintenance, and every 1 year or 2 years you do some major debottlenecking or some major turnaround or some major revamp to optimize the production of your plant or replace certain equipment that has deprecated. We need to do the same thing too. So that's, I think, when they understand, because we are all engineers in different fields. So I think engineers that way are quite pragmatic. They love to build, they love to see things work. So I think that's one of the very cultural alignments that we have with the business actually. IT is probably one of those parts of the Petronas business that culturally our engineers are quite aligned to mechanical engineers or process engineers or chemical engineers at the plant in terms of the way that we think.
so as a result, does it mean that software development, okay, software project in Petronas tends to be a bit more traditional, as in agile might be new, this kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really the new kid on the block. I mean, we only have a handful of products that I can say the teams are mature enough to actually manage it in an agile fashion. Because I mean, you know that waterfall projects are the most in terms of reliability. You get exactly what you paid for and what you agreed to at the beginning of the project. So there are no surprises in between. You don't really change anything. So it's sometimes easier to operate that way if that's exactly what it is the business wants. But more and more, because and the industry is shifting and so is Petronas. Because 5 years ago when I first joined, IT did a lot of ERP support and maintenance. So it was like a lot of SAP. So mainly this off-the-shelf software, finance, HR, and all these standard modules to manage the business. But over the last 5, 6 years, there has been a lot of investment in custom applications for the group. And the preference has shifted towards that because it's easier to build exactly what you want. Everybody thinks their operations is unique, even when it may not be. And the UX and the UI is often like exactly how you want it if it's custom. And you can change anything you like. You don't even have to make a feature request. So that's why Agile and DevOps has become so central to the way that we need to transform, because we are spending way too much time fighting fires, I think. And you're right, the development is still very traditional. Most of our stuff is either some SharePoint customized application or some .NET, not even .NET Core, like older .NET versions applications. That's it. That describes 95% of our application base.
Okay. So as a result, do other departments perceive that IT is easy and they want to do it themselves because it's easy to do and things like that when they look at whatever things happen? Because you just tell me that there's multiple of the same application. Is it because that other departments think that IT is easy, they want to have control of their own stuff or something like that?
Oh, actually, no. Actually, we did that to ourselves.
Oh, okay.
It was because now we're trying to move away from that. I mean, like you mentioned just now, IT was very much like order taker. So if the business likes a certain software, or if they chose something, or if they say, "Oh, the one you already have is not right, I want my own," sometimes all we did was fulfill that request. Okay, so we ended up with this kind of application fragmentation. Because our IT model was federated in the past, and now it's becoming a lot more central in terms of budget planning, application planning, technology planning. So that's actually why. I mean, we still delivered the work, but the decisions were made not centrally. It's made by the individual businesses who wanted to buy that software or develop it.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Like, what would your advice be for people like IT managers who would like their department to have a more central role, or like have an influential role, like not just order taking, but also um, be involved in like market research, decision making. Like, okay, this is what we have right now, this is our capability, we know we can do there, so you like allow us to experiment and research. So basically having more direction in their own department, because like you mentioned, most of the perspective on IT is that they're like janitorial services, like they clean up the messes everywhere else. And not to say that janitorial services are like low tier, they're actually very very important, but they don't tend to be involved in marketing decisions, for example. But if someone wants to switch the perspective, how would they do it? Like, how would you advise them?
Well, I don't actually believe there's a wrong IT model. Um, I think I think if companies are small or they are medium sized, it can be easier to manage because it's easier to get the stakeholders together. But when you have a global company that's 50,000 users and consists of more than 100 companies like the way Petronas is, it can be difficult to pull everyone together for something that's especially general like room booking system, because everyone will have an opinion on what the room booking system should look like. Everyone will have an opinion. But if you talk about finance system, then okay lah, only one department will have an opinion about that, and then they can centralize and they can standardize it for the whole company. So we often have disagreements around this type of application of business processes. So the advice, what has worked for us, I think, is first of all, it's leadership lah. We were previously IT reported into finance actually. Okay, so it wasn't it wasn't a function on its own. So we actually reported into finance. So I think the direction at the time, which was correct, because I think we supported a lot of ERP, and not so much, we weren't in this space where we were driving a lot of technologies that had bottom line, I think, impact on the plant especially. I think that the focus back then was on cost recovery and also reducing the cost of IT every single year and demonstrating improvements that you made in your processes to enable that cost efficiency. So now it's different, because our CDI reports directly to the president, so IT has more of a seat at the table. So when you do that and the business acknowledges that this is a critical component of our business, and it's going to drive some sort of competitive advantage in the way that we do business, in the way that we make profits, and it's actually going to impact the bottom line. So then IT has to say, okay, we will do this, but we won't do this. We will do this, we won't do this. But you almost have to involve yourself, you really take space and then force your way to the table and say that, okay, I got a decision to make, and I'm not going to build anything silly, or not going to build anything stupid, not going to waste the business's money, which can be hard. I think a lot of that is it's not even something that you can do overnight. It's a lot of political maneuvering, to be honest, and navigation, and making sure that people take you seriously.
Yeah, and I assume that at the transition period, there's a lot of hurdle to actually try to get a few things the way you want.
Yeah, business is not used to IT saying no. So the moment we started doing that, we started getting quite unpopular. It's like, why you don't want to serve my service request? I have money.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not the point.
Well, I suppose you can say the president says so. So from what I understand as well, the scope of the IT operation also expand a lot further from doing financial support. I mean, support for financial application to broader side of IT operations across Petronas there. So I assume there's things like, I don't know, network operations and all that. Am I correct? Or it will be something I saw other people doing that.
Come again? You kind of like came in and out the audio a little bit.
So let me rephrase that. So does it mean that since you joined your department role expand a lot bigger now, in a way that you also handle operations, network operations and all that, for example?
Oh no, actually, after reorganizing, my team is actually smaller now. Okay, well, that's not exactly true in the interim. Okay, so I used to have a delivery division with every single component of delivery in that same division, meaning the project managers, the business analysts, the developers, they're all in the same division. What we've done now is we've kind of turned that organization on its side. So we've created shared groups of shared technical expertise. So the software engineers are in one department, the product managers are in one department, the UI UX folks and the designers are in one department, and we have tribe leads who are kind of like our business interlock, who decide together with the business how they're going to shape their portfolio of solutions that they want to deliver. So it's a little bit like the Spotify tribe and chapters model, if you're familiar with that. So we now have tribe leads and we have chapter leads. Tribe leads will do the road mapping with the business and shape what it is that's required, the value to be delivered. And the chapter leads will be focused on their area of expertise. So that's actually how we've restructured. And I'm somewhere in the middle doing DevOps and process improvement across.
Right.
How do you get like this information, like the knowledge to do your work well? Because you mentioned you did consulting, and this is not completely different from consulting, but this is a very
Mm-hmm.
different, um, not niche, but like a I'd say a direction. Like you're managing a different part of the business, and you're actually managing it. You're not just saying or proposing that this is what should be done, and then let the company decide for it. So you're actually part of, like, your skin is in the game, basically in
Mm-hmm.
this case. So how do you learn? Like, you mentioned Spotify model. Like, did you do research about it? Did you talk to other technologists? Did you interview them, ask for their opinions? How would you?
That's a great question. I think, well, the benefit also of working for Petronas, which is Malaysia's only Fortune 500, is that we have access to a lot of industry experts. So we work with a huge range of partners on a variety of things. Sometimes we work with them on pilots for new products. Sometimes we work with them on our cloud adoption strategies. And sometimes we work with them for stuff like this, like organizational transformation. So our partners, as you know, are people like Microsoft, AWS, McKinsey, Accenture. So we work with a lot of these people, and they provide us with a lot of insights as to what some of the industry good practices are, what other people are doing, what might be good for us, the pros and cons, and the different kinds of options that are available. So we evaluate, no? We evaluate and we implement what we feel is the most suitable for us. And of course, at also the grassroots level, we have people like you, where we get to network with others in the community, and we get to share, what we're doing, and also so you guys get to share with us what you think we're doing is crap or anything. It helps. It does help a
So,
lot.
okay, uh, that is actually a very big, it's a very different type of organization for corporate environment. It's not for startup guys. It's just for startup guys, everything is simple. But if you used to, I can imagine that when you implement the tribe models, I call it the new age models,
Mm.
the software operation people will be angry and all that. Did they have a protest or something? I mean, it's a big change. It's a big change. You're talking about
Yeah.
traditional people that traditionally run mainframe system in the extreme, or the SAP consultants and all that, right? So I
Mm.
assume that there's a lot of friction when you do what you're doing right now. So how
Mm.
do you work along that way? Yeah.
I think generally, I think there will be complaints lah.
Yeah.
There will be complaints about things changing and things changing too fast, or people not wanting to learn. But honestly, I've realized that after being in this company for quite some time, that people are generally quite open to learning new things. Okay,
Okay.
so and Petronas is generally also very committed in reskilling and investing in its people. So our training budgets are very generous. We always
Okay.
encourage capability development. So whoever it is that is has a traditional role, let's say maintaining servers at the data center, we have opened up career paths to become a cloud engineer, for example. We pay for your training with AWS and Microsoft. We pay for your certification. We pay for your agile scrum training and certification as well. We give you the tools that you need, like your DevOps tools, your ELK, your Sonar Cloud. So we have the best of what is available to us. So I think engineers, when they see that commitment, they get very excited. It's like, oh, I get to have this, I get that tutor, I get that
Right.
training. So it makes people happy also lah. Even though you have to change how you do your work.
So
And
one
it,
of the
I guess
things
it
to
does
actually
help.
do.
Sorry,
What?
I was just going to mention that it helps to be a change management, doing change management as a consultant from before, because this is
Yes.
like this is basically the same thing but just a different
Mm,
purpose. Sorry, Suming, I interrupted you.
Yeah. So one of the main thing about changing in a traditional organization is about training, right?
mm,
Because in the end of the day, you really need to change the core team without firing them. So a lot of it, but it helps that Petronas have the money. Not everyone have that kind
mm,
of money, you know what I mean?
mm,
So
mhm,
I don't know. I feel very happy when like the company I work for actually has budget for training, like actual budget, and
yeah,
actually sends us, because
yeah,
at least for me, like personally, as a person under in IT, it's like this is my investment. It's my time is what I make money from. It's like
yeah,
my skill set is what I make money from, and if the
yeah,
company actually invests in me and I can see myself growing, I feel happy. I feel like, oh, okay, I want to
mm,
contribute more.
yeah.
I'm
mm.
not. I didn't really work somewhere else, so I'm not sure if that's the same in other industries. But that's just how I feel with the IT people.
Not
Yeah.
always. Not always.
Mm.
Which is why I do not know how far experience is, but in my corporate scene, I don't always get the chance to actually be tool. Why not? My user complaint in the corporate world are we overly specialized, which is why I left early. That's my
Mm-hmm.
experience a few years back. But Lisa described the way you got the training program, all that. That's actually very different from my experience. So okay, maybe Lisa
Mm.
had a different experience, but maybe I have a crappy experience. So that's me. So yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of experience, like how would the day of a developer in Petronas IT look like? Like just run of the mill developer, like going through like, do you have like tickets, or do they get like, I don't know, like water cooler conversations? How does that sound like? The meetings, how would a typical day go?
Mm. Well, at this point in time, we are trying to hire a lot of software engineers because uh, I think I think currently we don't have enough in the organization to support the portfolio of applications that we have. Simply because there was so much work to do, and it was impossible to in-source all of that work. I mean, at any one time, maybe we could have almost over 500 developers working on various products across the IT landscape. So actually, when you say the day of the life of a developer, we have developers who are our permanent staff, who typically play roles like team leads. So you would be a team lead for maybe 10 developers or even more, for some of the senior devs. Or if you're talking about a dev who is one of our partners, they might be sitting in the office, or they might be offshore in Vietnam or India, So it depends. Like I guess the day in the life is different depending on their role as a developer. But I think one of the things which I also feel sorry about is that they have too much work. I think one of our senior devs easily maybe has 5, 6 different projects at any one time. So I admit that it can be very hard for them to focus, and we're trying to correct this situation because you see us hiring so aggressively, and also trying to consolidate our application portfolio so that there's more focus. Um, so that a day in the life might be a combination of doing your project work, reviewing the work of the developers onshore, offshore, firefighting issues because something is down or something is broken. So I think our devs, God bless them, they have good days, but they have really, really bad days as well. So it depends. Mm.
So speaking of, you mentioned about being difficult, like having difficulty hiring software developers. Is it like
Mm.
really difficult? Like what's the difficulty there? Hiring good developers, or is it the culture fit, or is it just developers in general, or can we train people? Like because
Mm,
it's come up many times that it's very difficult anywhere in the world to hire
mm,
software developers, and bootcamps have
mm,
been like churning out software developers. Apparently they're not enough.
mm. There's probably a few perspectives to that. I think when people say it's difficult, they probably mean different things. I think firstly it's difficult because if you want to have your cake and eat it, like, oh, I want this guy to be full stack, I want him to know this, I want him to know that, cloud technology, back end, front end, everything, everything, do everything, then of course you have to pay a premium
Hmm.
for someone like
Yeah.
that. And not everyone can afford to pay that premium. So it can be very hard to hire candidates like that who are more scarce than your usual run of the mill developer. Secondly, I think culture is a good point because if you're the kind of developer that wants to do very cutting edge, leading work in a company with B2C solutions and all that, you may not find your life in a company like ours as exciting, maybe. We still have interesting products, but not everyone gets to work on those interesting products, right? Um, Thirdly, could be the fact also because I think the value proposition for a lot of employees is that uh, you have career growth and you have mentorship. Okay, we have no trouble hiring fresh graduates, no trouble at all. Okay, hiring fresh graduates right out of university. But if we don't have middle managers and senior managers to mentor and to direct them, then it can very difficult. Then they're running around like headless chickens, listening to functional or like project managers who are non-technical, who don't understand what they do. So it can be difficult if there's that gap. So the pyramid has to kind of grow organically so everybody has the right direction. So I think maybe those are the three main reasons for me lah why we say it's difficult. Mm.
Does it also happens that the type of technology that you people use, it's not exactly actually does not exactly attract people with the right type of culture fit. So, for
True lah,
example,
actually.
yeah,
Mm.
okay, all right,
Because I have been in interviews before where the candidate has asked me like very tentatively, very like a bit scared, like, do you mind I try more modern technology stack?
yeah,
so my answer always is that yeah, of course we don't mind. The
yeah,
reason why we have so many of these monolithic .NET is because
yeah,
we didn't have a lot of internal developers last time. So we went down the path of what was the easiest to support based on the
yeah,
critical mass that we had. Okay. So if everything was more or less the same technology stack, then we could support it with this high turnover of external developers to support us. You see, but it's very hard when you don't have um, in-house devs that understand actually how the code works, and then if you need to fix it or if you need to do feature development, die if it's too complicated.
yeah.
Mm.
So transition and all they're going to drive people nuts, modernizing while keeping the whole thing.
Mm. Yeah, but I have no issue with it personally. I think once we hire or once we reskill enough of our IT population to be more mature and advanced in software engineering capabilities, I think we will definitely diversify.
Mhm.
So you mentioned the career growth model and mentoring, and I think you shared as well on Slack
Mm,
something like a draft of how that works.
mm,
And I think this is something that a lot of companies are looking forward to. Like, how do we grow our IT staff? Because for accounting, you send them to like new like conferences or to new seminars. What's new in the realm of accounting? What's the new
mm,
rules? And then you go through there, and then you get more responsibility. But it seems that it's very difficult to grow IT, mostly because like things just like um, new disciplines just pop up. Like DevOps wasn't there 10 years ago. Now there's DevOps, and then like
mm.
where do my skills go now? So how do you deal with the career growth? Like, how did that draft come about, and how are you moving it forward?
Mm. I think that career progression in IT is principally not very different from career progression elsewhere. I mean, in terms of the principles that you follow. Uh, I think that, um, well, formal training can only provide so much, right? And I think there were perhaps a few things that stood in the way last time. For example, um, traditional IT organizations are very siloed, right? You have departments that only do networking, only do DB, only do security, only do firewall, only do so so I think that inhibited the progression somewhat. But I think those fields or IT fields in general are converging. Okay, so I think this makes for an interesting career path to a lot of people because you're no longer stuck in a particular pigeonhole in IT where you can only become the senior networking engineer and then after that the head of the network department, and then maybe one day head of all. It's not so siloed anymore. So I think that's one of the ways that the industry is shifting. And also, if your skills become more market relevant in the areas of cloud, for example. I mean, everybody is looking for a cloud engineer, right? So you can not just join Petronas, you can join a tech company, you can join like
Mm-hmm.
FMB companies. Like everyone is doing this. So your career progression is not just limited. I think your career progression is very diverse in terms of upwards and also horizontally across businesses. So I think being in IT or technology actually is so much more, isn't it more eye opening and I think higher paying than being an accountant?
It's also more tiring because you just
Yes,
like
Ray.
I went for a sabbatical for like a month, and then like the next month I came back to work, like what the hell just happened? Everything is now different. I
Yeah.
need to learn all of these new things that you just
Uh,
implemented in just a month. So it's
yes.
tiring. Catching
It's
up
Mm,
is
tedious at
tiring.
different. It's tedious at different way, like put it this way.
mm,
Accountant tend to be. I know the technique relatively the same, but the software changes. But also there is a cycle. The cycle is like
mm,
tax
Mm-hmm.
season, then audit season, and all that. They tend
mm,
to have some cycle on that. IT, the tediousness is more of, it depends on organization. If you're startup, then suddenly 2 minutes like we need to do data science. Next thing is this server is awesome. I need to use that. Oh my goodness, this new thing we need to deploy right away because
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, I'm going to say this again. We as an industry in the startup scene have collective attention deficit disorder. I'm going to say this out loud.
Mm.
But that being said, each time things happen, they have some benefit in its own way. But in a traditional organization, we try to stretch as far as possible, which is why there's a legend. There's legend in the civil service. There's a Windows NT4 computer running up until 2010. And the Windows NT4 are created like 1998 or so. And Microsoft,
Mm.
because IT department in traditional environment, they will stretch as far as possible, right? So we
mm,
don't, so it's very different. Which is why I'm finding amazing that Petronas can do some a lot of changes now because
mm,
Petronas counts as one of those traditional organizations when you try to stretch
mm.
IT
Well,
as long as possible.
that's actually interesting. Well, Lisa, would you consider Petronas IT as the traditional IT, or has it changed while you were there, or has it been changing before you arrived?
Mm. I think that maybe to a large extent we're still fairly traditional, I think.
Yeah.
But because IT is so big and our portfolio is also so big, that there are parts of IT that feel very modern actually. When you look at some of our cloud native apps and the team that is building the data lake and the kind of work that the data scientist group is doing with us, it can look very advanced, and all of that also is on DevOps, agile methods and so on. But there's also a part of IT that's very traditional. It's almost like archaeology. It's like, wow, this app from 10 years ago still running. We go on this. old technology. Wow, I haven't seen this code since I was in university. So you still have those situations, okay? So we have the whole range, okay? We have the whole range of what is like super old and like super new and super modern and everything in between. So I would
So
say because
how would you sorry, how would you respond to someone as telling you that traditional like being traditional has gotten us here, it's a pillar of our business and it works just like the oil rig that lasts 40 years, it's still working, and so there's really no reason to change it.
mm, well, I think that sorry. Um, I would I would use my own that maintenance analogy that I used earlier, because whenever someone talks about a 40 or maybe even approaching 50-year-old oil rig, you can see, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
fear on their face. You can you can see that, okay, it might not, you know, be safe. There is a lot of things that we have to do to maintain. You know, we have to clean very often. The corrosion must be very bad. So, you know, we must be
Mm-hmm.
extra careful on facilities that are aging. Okay, same with architecture that is old and maybe fragile, poorly documented. Nobody understands it. So I don't think it is difficult to explain, because Petronas also has a whole department in their engineering just focused on aging assets, and, you know, extending the life of that, or even making it safe for employees to continue to work at these facilities. So we just say that we want the same thing. We want applications to be safe, secure, and reliable. And if you leave them alone for a long time, they don't stay that way,
Mhm.
just like your plants.
Yeah.
And how would you build software that lasts a long time, such that what you just need to do is maintain it? You don't need to like tear down an oil rig, build it from scratch. Like how would you approach that kind of building?
Got such thing, ah? Hmm. Software
Pretty
as a service,
consistent.
right?
Software that well, software applications that actually last the test of time. Like, well, swimming was just talking about Windows
Mm,
NT that was
mm,
Yeah.
built 98 and still like running until now because it's an enterprise software. Microsoft built it to last
mm,
until you, and even in fact people still are running XP because it's still like working for them. They absolutely refuse to upgrade. And so
mm.
is that actually a worthy goal to build software that lasts, or is there like a natural life cycle for software, like they have to eventually be sunset and replaced by the next new thing?
Mm. Philosophically, I think we have been approaching it with the latter ideology, that nothing does last
Mm-hmm.
forever, and that it shouldn't be our goal to build an application that lasts forever, or to buy a machine that lasts forever. Because I think that's kind of folly in most
Mm-hmm.
cases, lah. I mean, surely it does happen in some cases, but I think maybe those are more of the exception than the rule, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
I guess
Yeah.
if we were in the 1800s, then with the speed of the like scientific development that time, it's like it takes 100 years for the next new
mm,
discovery to happen. I guess that works,
mm,
but now like every year there's a new scientific discovery. There's new dark matter,
Yeah.
particle candidate, whatever, and like it probably changes physics as we know it, and then now everything
mm,
changed again. And
mm.
I guess that's like the
So
natural life cycle is like lessened.
so here's a question that I'm interested is do every new thing from the IT industry will pull your department in every direction? Because IT are doing more and more things. So it's starting from finance. Now we have IoT. So now sooner or later, I'm sure somebody will ask for internet connected sensor for oil rig. Chances it already exists. I do not know whether you guys use it, but or even under your department. So the thing is, do all the new trends in technology pull the Petronas in all over the direction? Because those things comes at every 30, every 6 months or so, right?
Well, speaking of like IoT thing, I was so happy that at the Petronas station, I was able to use like PayWave or contactless. Like, this is amazing, because all the other
Yeah, yeah,
like pump
Mm,
stations, like they still have to put it in. But I just want to
yeah,
tap my card, and I was like
mm,
so amazed that oh, finally these
yeah, yeah,
these
yeah.
gas stations are catching up.
Because That's why I say, right, all these are trends that could pull people in all directions.
Mhm.
Did that actually drive you guys crazy, or you just accept it as a trend and go ahead and do it?
Uh, that one is like a love hate question. Sometimes it
Yeah.
drives us completely up the wall, but sometimes it's like, oh, thank God this is coming. Otherwise, it would be business as usual and we would have nothing exciting to drive us. Um,
Yes.
so it's a bit of both. Lah. Sometimes because you're so busy, right? And people come with new thing, you're like, yeah, you're very fun, you're very mafan. I have a lot of
Yes.
things to do. But at the
Yes.
same time, yeah, we have to make time for this. Lah. Otherwise,
All right.
stuck in a rut.
So, so with that said, we're already at our 1 hour mark. So to not bore our viewer tomorrow, Thursday, whenever you guys watch it. So any last words you want to before we can close?
Last word sounds so final.
I don't know. I'm sleepy. I don't know. I was asleep for the last few days. Any closing item and from you, Lisa? Anything? Anything you want to say
No,
before we close? Oh,
thank you so much for having me. I think the thing about being the non-technical person in the technical community is that I'm always very humbled by everyone who is who's so inviting, and to my staff who know so much more than me and who are always willing to teach and to explain, and everything that I think they do and we do is fascinating, and so it's been a privilege actually to play this role and to interact with all of you.
mhm. To be
Thank you.
honest, I think that we nerds should actually learn more about the soft side of technology and management because often too many people are too smart about whatever you say. So, which is why nowadays I've been focusing on the soft side. It's not soft side; it's your
If
daily life
only
doing.
human beings follow rules the way a software can follow the what
Yes,
instructions, right? Like if
correct.
this happens, this happens. No, but then again,
Yes,
yeah, that's why it's called soft because it's fuzzy, and
yeah,
there's a lot of signals that come in, and then you have to work
yes.
around it.
So with that
So
said, I
if
think
yeah,
yeah.
well, with the people watching here, if you want more of Lisa, comment down below and ask us if we can
Mhm,
ask your questions actually, and then we'll see if we can get Lisa to answer them later, or maybe we can
mhm.
have a part two. Like we have a lot of scheduled part twos. Like there's one with Wuhan, there's one with
Yeah, Nazro,
Jern.
Sean, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so lots of part two. So we haven't had a part two yet. So we
yes.
should have them. Yeah, so if any of you have any more questions, or like something that we didn't cover and you'd like to know the answer, we'll try to get them to Lisa and have her answer your questions.
Mhm. And that's it. Don't forget like and subscribe. The button is down here somewhere. So yeah, with that said, bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you
All
next week.
right. So I'm back end broadcast now. Yes.